Hello, my name is Tiara Sharma, and I am your host and producer of the show Restore Hearts TV. I am so glad that you have joined me here today. And so today is an educational episode where we're going to talk about anger. Remember, Restore Hearts is about education, empowerment, and building a community of people who want to take authority in the area of our mental health. And so that means that we're no longer going to sit back and let our mental health control us. We are going to take the driver's seat. Anger. As you can see, underneath the words anger are the words danger zone. And I did that on purpose because anger prevents you from seeing anything. I don't know how many of you have ever been so angry and so rageful that you couldn't see anything, you couldn't hear anything. It's like, I don't know if you ever heard the term, you black out. I thought this was important to show this picture of what anger does. Anger covers up everything that could be a danger to us. And so it just really messes with the way that we see things, we process things. And so anger can be very dangerous. So first, what is anger? According to the American Psychological Association, anger is an emotion characterized by active hostility towards someone or something you feel has deliberately done you wrong. Anger can be a good thing. It can give you a way to express negative feelings, for example, or motivate you to find solutions to problems. But excessive anger can cause problems. Increased blood pressure and other physical changes associated with anger make it difficult to think straight and harm your physical and mental health. I don't know if anyone paid attention to the background that I have, but you can see that the person in this picture was so angry that they took their fist and smashed it in a banana. Now, how many of you think that's a good idea? Not me. When I saw it, I was like, this is the exact picture of anger that I wanted to convey. Because in the moment, whatever that anger is pushing you to do, whatever that behavior is, may seem like a source of relief at the time, but you end up harming yourself in the end, or you end up making yourself look like a fool. There's a lot of things that were talked about here. First episode, we talked about the difference between a feeling and an emotion. And so it's categorizing anger as an emotion. And so if we remember, those emotions are things that are in our subconscious. So they affect how we think and how we feel and what we do, but we're not always aware of what those things are. This is what anger is. It's one of those emotions that arise within us. We see it, we can see what's happening, but we're not always conscious of why we are angry. Anger causes blood to flow to our hands, making it easier for us to strike an enemy or hold a weapon. Our heart rate speeds up, and a rush of hormones, including adrenaline, creates a surge of energy strong enough to take vigorous action. And that was a quote from the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. How many of you have ever seen somebody who is angry, or even yourself, if you call yourself angry, you can just see how tense you get? It talks about how anger causes blood to flow to our hands. So oftentimes you might see someone with a balled up fist, or it's kind of like in a fighting position, or clenched jaws, if you pay attention. And then as you can see, you get a rush of hormones, including adrenaline, that make you enough to take vigorous action. This is why anger can be so dangerous when it's not controlled, or when you haven't learned how to manage your emotions or identify them. If you're just having a secondary reaction to anger, you can see how it can get out of hand very quickly. So if you have young children, when young children get very angry, they have to be taught how to process their anger. If not, it could become a hitting match very quickly with young children. And so that's because this is their natural reaction to the emotion of anger. And we all have to be taught how to process that anger. If we as adults grow up, we haven't learned how to process our anger. This is happening in our very grown adult bodies. and we're having these reactions to anger toward ourselves and then towards the people around us. So this can become very dangerous very quickly. So we have to learn healthy coping strategies to process anger and to deal with anger. So I want to take a moment to invite you to my Facebook community. I have a private Facebook community called Restore Hearts TV with Tierra Sharma. And once again, it's to educate, to empower, and build a community of people who want to take authority in the area of our mental health. Those of us who are tired of our mental health running us. We want to be in a driver's seat. And so this is going to be a community where it is safe to talk about the different topics that we discuss from week to week and continue to grow with each other. Also, I have another community that I'm building called Mother's Mental Health Movement. And this community is specifically for women, for mothers, to talk about those issues that are specifically related to women when it comes to our mental health. And once again, just building another safe community where we can come share our stories to support each other as women, as mothers in the community, and so that we can break down that stigma amongst women, because we are very important and effective to our families and our communities, and we need to be stable in our mental health and our emotions to be effective. Anger is a secondary emotion. What does that mean? That means that anger is an emotion that you see in yourself or another person, but there's another emotion that needs to be exposed to get to the root. And so we kind of already talked about that a little bit with that image that we had on the first episode with feelings versus emotions. So the top of the tree, that's that area that we can see. We would say that that is the feeling of anger, which we can see. But the emotion that's really behind that, that's going to take some time to expose, because there's an underlying reason there. And so I'll give you a practical example from my own life. When my son was, I would say, 2 years old, I would find myself being very angry when my son would drop his food, right? I know. So don't judge me. But when my son would drop his food or drop something in the floor, I would get very angry. And I thought it was because he dropped the food in the floor. So that was my reaction. When I actually got to the root cause, the real reason I was angry was because I was tired. And when my son actually dropped the food, to me, it felt like it was something else for me to do. It was just another thing on my to-do list. When I'm already tired, I want to sit down, I want to lay down for the day. I'm just ready to be done. Him dropping the food, that could be taken as me being mad at him for actually dropping the food on the ground, when we know that is not an appropriate reaction, because children need that opportunity to be able to learn and to be able to make mistakes so that they can grow, just like us. So, but this is the example of how anger can kind of mask those different emotions. And so this is a question for your reflection, for your downtime. What's hiding behind the anger you feel? And it's a very personal question. There's so many different reasons why you can be angry. And if you remember on our episode with depression in men, we talked about the anger iceberg. I named it the faces of anger. And that's because we talked about anger as a secondary emotion. As you can see on this iceberg depiction, this is from the Gottman Institute, that there is that part of the iceberg above the surface level that you can see, which is the anger, maybe the balled up fists, the clenched jaws. But then underneath all that anger is all these other things: embarrassment, you have grief, you have overwhelm, depression, rejection, nervousness, annoyed. Read the list. There's so many things that could be hiding underneath the surface of anger. And so that's why that reflection question is so important for you to think about in your downtime, especially if you know that you're one who is challenged with anger. You're one who is challenged with not understanding how to process your emotion of anger. You're one to lash out with your words or even with your fists. This is something for you to seriously consider. for many of us, there may have been a point where you may not have felt safe to express your emotions. And so if that is the case, anger is one of the more acceptable emotions. And so it can hide, as you can see, a lot of things. So as we grow and mature as adults, we need to go back and we need to sit down and think about these things. That's one of the things that I have to do, is kind of do a reverse when I feel anger, is to recognize, hey, what's hiding underneath? Tiara, do you feel sad about something? Is there something else going on? So I really have to talk to myself like that. Don't feel any kind of way about getting better. Remember, that's what this is about, is that we're taking authority in the area of our mental health. So these are the type of questions we have to ask ourselves. All right, and so I am looking for 40 youth between the ages of 12 and 17 for a youth empowerment takeover here on this show. I'm looking for 40 youth. I want to do 10 shows of youth empowerment and have 40 youth share their messages with the world. And that's in the form of a 5-minute video and them speaking their messages to empower the world. And there will be a first, second, and third place winner. And so the whole point of this is to give our youth some hope, to help those who may want to speak or may have something to say, to be able to do so on this platform, and just give them that exposure, give them an opportunity to have some excitement, some joy, really rally behind them. And so I'm excited about it. There's the information for the jot form. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me on social media in my inbox, and then I will answer those questions for you. Some cultural stigma about anger. So I know for me, being a Black woman, I heard angry Black woman, I don't know how early, but it was very early. I would say probably before the age of 10, I was hearing about the angry Black woman. And, that definitely plays on, it can play on the way you present yourself. So for me, I didn't want to be an angry Black woman. I didn't want to be known as the angry Black woman, because when you're known as the angry Black woman, people talk about you. Those were the images that I was seeing. People would talk about you. Maybe it would cause you not to have get a promotion at work, even though you worked very hard, or maybe just cause a lot of attention on you. So, that's a very negative stigma that I picked up very early. To me, it wasn't safe to be angry. And so I stuffed a lot of anger inside. I honestly recognize anger inside of me. And so this is one of the things that I've had to work on in my adult life. Another stigma about anger that I've found and that I've heard is that anger is a masculine emotion. And so how many of you have ever heard that? Or I know I've heard a lot of men say, hey, it's more acceptable for me to be angry than, to be sad or to be mad or to cry. And so you may see a lot of the young men express anger as that primary emotion. But I know that as a young woman, especially as a teenager growing up, if women were angry, then you could be teased and be called a boy. Oh, why are you acting like a man, or why are you acting like a boy? Because you were showing that expression of anger. And so think about that social pressure around your peers. Like a young woman, a young girl doesn't want to be called a boy. And so those are some of the cultural stigmas and things that I have heard. Also, it's not okay to be angry, AKA calm down. I don't know how many I've been told to calm down before. I've told other people to calm down before. But what we have to in that narrative around anger is that anger is a very healthy emotion for us to feel. It's those behaviors that come after it that determine whether or not, the behavior is healthy, but the actual emotion of anger is healthy. We just have to understand what to do with it. All right, so what does the word of God say about anger? In Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 and 22 in the Message, the word of God says, I'm telling you that anyone who is so much as angry with a brother or sister is guilty of murder. Y'all, when I read this version, I said, this is very serious. Like, this shows us, what God is showing us is what can happen when we let anger run rampant in our lives, is that it can lead to murder. when we are having that emotion of anger, that blood rushes to our hands. We get this rush of hormones in our bodies, adrenaline, that make us take vigorous action. If all of our blood is going to our extremities, is going to our hands, it's going to different areas that make us ready to fight and make us ready to take action, that means there's less blood going into our brain. And so we're not thinking properly. It's one of those what we call the fight or flight system is going on. And so we're ready for action, but this is what makes it dangerous. We're ready for action, but we're not thinking. And so we have to take that time to pause, to think, give ourselves time to process that emotion. We can make great decisions. You can be angry and make a great decision afterwards. Once we let that emotion pass and give yourself time to process that emotion. And as we say, reflect on that question, what am I angry about? Did someone make me angry? Is it an emotion that I'm feeling right now that I just can't explain? What is going on with me so that it doesn't lead to something as serious as murder? So when anger arises, what should I do? Pause and breathe. These are some practical things you can do. You can walk away. You can give yourself permission to feel the emotion without judgment. These are all things that I've had to do that have worked for me. And if you have some things that have helped you, please share them in the group. If this episode has helped you out, you've learned something, tag me in a post on social media, let me know. What do you think? What are some of the things that you do when anger arises in you that have been beneficial to you? Let's help each other out. So there are some things to do, and then there are some things not to do. We don't want to harm ourselves or other people. Because remember that emotion of anger, when it arises in us, that if we haven't learned how to process our emotion, then we're most likely going to do that first thing that comes to our body. I won't say our head because we're not thinking. So that first thing that comes to our body, which may be to hit, which may be to say harmful, sarcastic, mean words to the people around us, to yell, to belittle. And these are behaviors that are not okay. Yelling, sarcasm, belittling the people around you or yourself. Remember yourself, you're important too. Hitting yourself or anyone else, any type of physical abuse is not okay. And then the silent treatment, I think that's one that we don't talk about often. The silent treatment, that is not okay. It's actually a form of abuse. And I don't think people know that. But, it is appropriate, because we don't want to lash out on the people we love. We don't want to lash out on ourselves, but it is appropriate to say, hey, I'm angry right now. It's not a good time to talk. Let's talk later. Something like that is very appropriate to do. So I'm not suggesting, that you have to have a whole full-blown conversation. We know it. We all know that's probably not the right time, but you can say something to let the people around you know that, hey, I'm angry. It's not the right time to talk. I'll talk to you later. All right. I want to take this opportunity to tell you about the 2 books that I co-authored. I'm a co-author of best-selling book, Trapped Behind Enemy Lines in My Mind, and Good Grief. And these are 2 amazing books. Good Grief is about finding the goodness in grief. That's a great resource for any and everybody. Every single one of us has experienced some type of loss in our life. And so there are 14 great stories in Good Grief to help give you tips and tools about how to find the goodness in grief. And then Trapped Behind Enemy Lines in My Mind is about overcoming those mental health challenges or challenges that we perceive to be mental health challenges during our life, and just telling our stories about how we've overcome those challenges as well. And so pre-order your copy today. I would love your support. Ordering a copy of the book will help support the show. And so please order a copy of the book. You order them for your ministries. You can order them for your mom's group, tour groups, wherever you have those safe spaces where you're talking about those hard conversations and you need a tool, you need something fresh to talk about in your groups. I encourage you to pre-order your copies today. Do you recognize anger in you? Do you recognize anger in you? Think about it. Because if you don't, it can be very dangerous. You remember we talked about anger being a danger zone. And so it's important that you allow the people in your life an opportunity to tell you about you. And so if you're not sure, ask the people you love, ask the people who are close to you, ask the people who do life with you on a day-to-day basis. Do you seem to be angry? And allow them the opportunity to give you the truth. They'll tell you the truth. And so this is very important if we're looking to improve ourselves. If we're looking to get better, then we have to allow those around us to give us feedback that will help us grow. All right. So I got ahead of myself. But yes, allow your family to give you feedback about how they experience you when you are angry. And so getting this healthy feedback will help give you some perspective on how people are experiencing you, because sometimes we can think that we're doing a great job and we're really not. So we need to allow those around us to give us that feedback, that healthy feedback that will help us grow and help us to know where our weaknesses are and where we can improve. So we have a few affirmations. I give myself permission to feel the emotion of anger. I release the emotion of anger in me and invite peace to come in. I will not harm myself or, and that is blank because you can put whoever's name in there that you need to. Myself or my spouse, myself or my children, myself or my employees, you fill in the blank. I think, feel, and behave in a calm and loving manner. I am capable of learning healthy ways to cope with anger. I am peace. And these are affirmations that I've used for myself, and they have worked very great for me. So if you're one who is already using some affirmations, share them with us. Let us know what you're using to help in this area of anger, so that we can get us some affirmations going. And then we have a prayer. Our prayer for those who have been affected by anger, those who want to learn, who want to grow from anger. Here's a prayer for you. Father, I am sorry for allowing the emotion of anger to control me. I am sorry for the way I have treated myself and others because of anger. Forgive me. Help me to identify those hidden things on the inside of me that keep me in cycles of anger. Teach me healthy ways to cope with the anger I feel. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you want to become a one-time or monthly sponsor of the show, please, you can go to my link there, Linktree/Tierra Sharma. You can email me if you're interested, you have more questions. There's my email address right there, Tierra@mothersmentalhealthmovement.com. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Restore Hearts TV to talk about anger. Anger is one of those emotions we all experience, and I think it's been one that's been treated unfairly, which is why it has taken a turn for the worse. When we think about anger, we don't think about good things. And so I want to help decrease that stigma. And I want to let you know that it is okay to feel that emotion of anger. What it is not okay to do is to lash out on other people, to hit other people, just not learn how to process that emotion of anger. It's time. So don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to go talk to a therapist. Don't be afraid to join a group where anger management is the focus. Don't be afraid to learn and grow. Don't be afraid to give yourself space if you need to. You need to give yourself space while you learn, while you grow, while you learn healthy coping strategies to help you process anger. I'm telling you, it's okay. And so I love you all. I will see you next time here on Restore Hearts. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Restore Hearts TV.
Life is a journey, and there are many moments. Some moments are smooth. You flow through them effortlessly. There are other moments when life's challenges interrupt your momentum, yet you find the strength to get back on track, to keep moving. So even if you have to crawl to make it there, do it, because victory belongs to you. You are equipped to handle every part of the journey. You were created to overcome this. Don't give up. I love you.